Good morning, Venters. So I go to Whataburger, right, to get a burger and fries and a drink, but instead of getting a soda, I'm getting an unsweetened tea. As I'm paying for my food and exiting the drive-thru, I specifically ask her, is this unsweetened? And instead of putting the straw in the drink and testing it, I drive home because she assured me that it was. So I go home and check it out. I take a sip. It's obviously sweetened tea. I'm not that upset about it, but I didn't drink it. I went ahead and decided to go with water instead, but it was still disappointing. So me keeping sugar-free for Lent is still in effect. I don't know if you guys remember this, but about 2 months ago, we talked about the fact that there's a lot of FBI people that believe that there's probably 700 serial killers that pose as truck drivers for their 9-to-5 jobs, right? Well, I guess being a trucker is not a 9-to-5 job, but because they can easily hop across state lines, it makes them potentially perfect suspects to be serial killers. And today, I was listening to True Crime News, and they were talking about a single mother of two. Her name is Abbie Pimentel. She was on the side of I-24 in a place called Fort Campbell, Kentucky, when 63-year-old trucker Roy Nellsch picked her up to help her. He assured her that he would take her up to the nearest gas station where she could get some gas, and then he would bring her back to her vehicle so that she could be on her merry way. She gets in the vehicle with him and instantly notices that instead of getting off on the next exit to get gas, he's hitting the gas and he's not stopping. So she tries to keep her composure and she says, you know what, just let me out here. I'm fine. I don't need anything. And so he actually obliges her and pulls over to the side of the road, where he pulls out a gun and lets her know that, hey, we're going to be making love, but he doesn't exactly use the word love, and it's not a weird statement. It sounds like he's just going to take it from her, if you know what I mean. Even though he looked like a nice, kindly grandpa in her own words, he ended up getting her in handcuffs where the cuffs were actually behind her back. He puts her in the back portion of his diesel and he proceeds to drive away. Apparently, she's an Army veteran and she's got quite a lot of fight in her. So Abbie manages to wrench her hands free of the handcuffs, which I find amazing, but I've seen 2 or 3 videos now of different women that can some way, somehow contort their hands to get out of handcuffs. Absolutely amazing. I haven't seen men do it yet, but I've honestly seen 3 women videos where they've done it. Anyway, she ends up doing this. She notices that he is flying down the freeway, but she looks at this as literally her only chance of escape. So she takes a blanket that's in the back with her and she proceeds to put it over Roy Nellsch's face. This is causing him to get to the point where he miraculously doesn't get into an accident, but instead he pulls over to the side. It enables her to kind of kick and get out of that situation. She exits the diesel. He's so freaked out, he hits the gas and takes off, thinking, I better get the F out of here, right? Apparently, she saw 3 letters on his vehicle, MDS. I don't know if they were giant letters on his vehicle, but because she was able to remember those 3 letters, a guy ends up picking her up on the side of the freeway and he calls 911 for her. Or excuse me, this guy is like, hey, this lady's on the side of the freeway saying that this trucker was trying to attack her and make love to her against her will. And he kind of let the 911 operator know about the 3 letters that were associated with this diesel truck. Guys, because she was able to remember those 3 letters and get out of that situation, 911 was able to have police officers catch him in the next state over. I believe they said it was in Tennessee. He was so convincing, he being Ron, that when they pulled him over, he had halfway convinced the police that she was actually trying to rob him, and he forced her to get out of his truck. Complete lie. They ended up getting a warrant, checking out his 18-wheeler, and found that in the back of his truck, he actually had a torture chamber set up that was just incredible. Amongst the many things they found handcuffs, they found bloodied panties that they believe might have been from some of his previous victims. And basically, because Abbie was such a fighter, she was able to basically lead police to catching Roy Nellsch, and now they believe that he was probably a serial killer. Is that amazing? Little Abbie Pimentel, they made it sound like she was hardly $120, right? She's a small little person. She fought like heck, and because she did, there's probably a half dozen to a dozen girls that are on the planet now that have no idea that Abbie actually probably saved their lives. If you're ever hitchhiking, which again, if you're my age, you probably remember when we were young, it was not uncommon to see people on the side of the road with the thumb up in the air hitchhiking. I don't see that hardly at all now. And if I do, it's literally once every like 15 or 20 years. When was the last time you guys saw somebody hitchhiking and it wasn't in a movie? Let me know down below. I just thought that this was really crazy that she was able to get away. So here's my question to you. You're in the back of a diesel rig. You don't know if this guy is planning on forcing himself on you or if he's going to delete you from the face of the earth. Do you do the same thing Abbie does? Do you literally blind him with a blanket while you're on the freeway thinking, I don't care if this big rig flips. I don't care if we get in a 20-car pileup. I'm going to get out of this situation, or at least die trying. If that describes you, let me know. If you think you would have maybe tried something else, let me know. I think we can all agree when somebody tries to force you into their vehicle, you're better off taking the stance that they are going to take your life, because I'm telling you, there is no negotiating with the bad guy. One of the things that Roy Nellsch told her later on in the courts, I guess, or told her through the media, was apparently he was shocked because she fought like hell and he had never experienced anyone fighting that hard. That made my heart very sad, because more than likely that means he probably took quite a few very nice women and young ladies and probably took their lives, you know, where they were probably trying to appease this monster. Apparently when they went not only into his truck, but I think they might have checked out his properties and stuff, they also found some pictures and videos of children. Some of those were things that he had purchased, but apparently some of them were original video from him himself. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how evil this man was. But one thing that the cops said that I thought was very telling is they said that just like Abbie described, Ron came across as a very kind-hearted, grandfatherly type. The only reason that the detectives kind of started believing her over him was because they started noticing that instead of being really cooperative like a victim would be, because remember, he was accusing Abbie of being a thief, right, and robbing him. Most of the times victims don't start to get defensive and angry, but apparently the detective kind of saw Ron's dark side. So he kind of had an idea or an inkling that Abbie was being honest. And not only did she put the blanket over his eyes, but apparently she grabbed the steering wheel and wrenched it to the side, causing him to miraculously exit the road. So he's on the side of the freeway as she was able to kick, claw, and punch her way out. And they showed on the video, he was so adamant. He's like, yeah, I told her to get out of my effing truck. She was trying to rob me. She's a burglar or whatever, you know. And I just thought, holy moly, he really does sound like an old guy that was being abused by a young lot lizard or something, right? And that just goes to show you, looks can be very deceiving. Sometimes the most innocent looking people can be the most darkest souled devil out there. And I'm just glad that they caught this Ron guy, but it brings me back to what we were speaking about a couple months ago. Guys, on our roads, and every time you're on the freeway, most likely you see a trucker or two. Those people are probably affiliated with others like them that probably are amongst the worst people in the world. This person's name is CDC Dogs, and CDC Dogs says, I traveled a lot with my young sons in the 90s. My father always told me that if I ever needed help, I could rely on truck drivers. Never had a bad experience, and when I absolutely needed them, only the truck drivers rescued me. You know, I think that's a beautiful comment. Yes, there's probably a couple hundred serial killers out there that happen to be cross-country truckers, right? But you know as well as I do, there's probably 50 to 100,000 truckers altogether, maybe even more, and 95 to 99% of them are probably wonderful human beings. I think a lot of times when we see stuff on the news, it's real easy to kind of group everybody into that category, right? But you know as well as I do, no matter what group of people you're looking at, most of us are halfway decent people and would never harm anybody. I think that's why I get so mad when you hear about judges and parole boards being lenient on the bad guy. It's because if we are lucky enough to find the bad guy before they can become a serial killer, we need to get those people off the streets. And in that way, I just feel like judges and parole boards have let us down. But again, even when it comes to judges, I'm sure most of them are really good, decent human beings. So if you're a judge and you think, golly, Jesse from Walk Talk Vent hates me, just know I don't hate you that much. At Christian Romero says, this is where all the missing women and children go. So you know how a lot of times we assume people go missing because maybe they were abducted by aliens and UFOs, right? And undercover sex traffickers. A lot of times it's just a bad human being making a choice to be evil. I don't know if this is where a majority of young people and children go missing, but I think it's obviously a percentage of it. Isn't it sad when we all go to Walmart and right by the restroom, because we've all gone to the Walmart restroom a couple times in our lives, right? There's all those pictures of kids that are missing. And what's really crazy is almost every one of those pictures looks like somebody that could be one of your neighbors, don't they? Does anybody else get that sad feeling in their stomach when they see those pictures of those people that are missing? You know as well as I do, there's not a dad, not a mom, not a grandma out there that doesn't want those kids to come home. And I just think it's so sad that we have people out there that do these horrible, heinous things to the most innocent people around. That's what's so shitty. You want there to be good, innocent people out there that wouldn't hurt a fly. Those people end up being victimized a lot of times. It seems like in this world, you're either the wolf or you're the prey. I don't want it to be that way. Nobody wants it to be that way. But the older I get, it sure does seem like a dog-eat-dog world where most people aren't so good. I like to tell myself I'm wrong. And I know deep down a lot of us are good, but my God, there seems like there's an endless supply of bad people out there. It just breaks my heart. At Jody Hall, 8731 says, she may have saved many women's lives. Guys, Abbie Pimentel, look her up. She is a hero. Sometimes when you just fight with every fiber of your being, good stuff happens. She didn't end up getting touched by this guy. At least I don't think she got touched by this guy in any other way other than her wounds that she had. But I'm sure she's doing good now. She's probably so proud of herself, and I'm sure her family is too. What a blessing. And for those that were too scared to fight back, you know, let's put people like that in our prayers, because there's innocent people that get bullied and hurt all the time in this country and world. Shanika Bryan says, I hope they properly investigated this man because he's clearly a serial killer. I know, wouldn't that be great if a lot of people that were missing, if they could somehow tie it to this guy so that their families could get closure? I think last year here in Arizona, they found the remains of somebody that had been missing since like the 1970s in middle of America, Kansas. Her whole family had perished and stuff, but at least they were able to get closure from the standpoint of, I think she had a couple of nieces and nephews that were still alive. But to know that that lady's parents went to their graves wondering what happened to their daughter, and I don't even remember her name, but that's the point. There's so many people that go missing each and every year. Oh, Jim's English says, if you have to get in a vehicle because you're stranded and desperate, take a photo of their license plate and let them know that you're doing so. So imagine you pull over and you give some person a ride, and right before they get in your truck, right, instead of, oh, thank you for helping me, they're like, hey, I took a picture of your license plate and I let everybody in the world know about it. If they can't accept that and they get pissed at you and want you to get out of their truck, get out of their truck. Any decent human being would have absolutely no problem with that. Do you guys agree? If I was a truck driver and someone got in my truck and said, hey, just want you to know I appreciate you, but I took a picture of your license plate and I sent it to my friends and family members, I would say, good for you. Let's get you some gas, you know? And hopefully most people would. Again, if you're a trucker, I'm sure you're a good person. I just find it interesting that it's the perfect profession to kind of drive endlessly. And I suppose that puts people in a peculiar spot where they could get away with a lot of bad things and not leave much of a trace behind. Kind of scary. You know what else is scary? Type 2 diabetes. So make sure you put your shoes on, make sure you go walk, and make sure you watch my video in the night and hit the thumbs up button. I'll see you tomorrow. Be safe.